So ladies and gentlemen, if you turn your eyes to the sky, you'll see the B29 Superfortress getting ready to land.
Okay, hi, my name's Kurt Lewis. I'm one of the few lucky people that get to operate as a pilot one of the last two remaining B29 Superfortresses, FIFI here behind me. I grew up in Rockford, Illinois, so getting to fly it out of here, the Chicago area, is always special to me. Anytime we're in the northern Illinois region, I try to take these flights. These are kind of my old stomping grounds because I came to all these airports when I was learning to fly as a teenager, and especially out of here, we just finished our 5th of 5 ride flights on the airplane this weekend, and on all 5 of them I got to go fly over Hinckley, Illinois, where I did my first solo in a glider on my 14th birthday back in 2004. So always special being able to give back and see all my glider pilot friends down there waving out of a little cornfield as I fly over in a B29 at 1,000 feet. And kind of comes full circle in a lot of ways like that. So.
How is a plane to fly? Tell me about the characteristics and some specs.
Sure, the airplane to fly, it's a very big airplane. There's no hydraulic assist on the controls, so it's still all cable driven. That said, there's a lot of gearing in the yoke that make the control forces manageable, not ridiculously heavy. Nothing happens fast. It's not a super maneuverable airplane. You really kind of have to plan your flight path out. It doesn't accelerate very fast. It doesn't decelerate very fast. So you have to manage your energy very carefully. Part of flying it around the country and sharing it with the public like this is we go to a lot of county-sized airports like this. And this airplane with 141-foot wingspan is about the size of a 767. And these airports don't necessarily see a lot of airplanes the size of 767. So it takes a lot of research and planning. When we're looking at cities we can go to and airports we can go visit, whether the airplane can fit on the runway, whether it can fit on the taxiways, whether the propellers can fit through the signs, and whether it can fit on the ramp. So logistically, the logistics of operating it are in a lot of ways more cumbersome than just the way the airplane handles to begin with. It takes a lot of special care to make sure we're not damaging the airplane or other airplanes on the ramp with our prop blast, and there's a lot that goes into how we park them and maneuver them around an airport.
Sure. Tell me about some of the V speeds and cruise settings.
Sure. Like on our ride flights today, our speed-wise, we're usually cruising about 200 miles per hour. Is a good speed. We're breaking ground, coming off the ground at about 125 miles an hour, and usually landing at about 125 miles an hour is what we shoot for as well. Takeoff and landing speed-wise, that's quite a bit slower than they would have been flying it in wartime. That's because we're quite a bit lighter than they're flying it in wartime. We're flying it with a lot less fuel, a lot less armor plating, obviously no bomb payload or anything like that. So we need a lot less runway and a lot slower speeds for flying than they would have been using in wartime. And that helps us come to some of these smaller airports as well. That we're flying at about 90,000 pound flying weights instead of 160,000 pound flying weights like they would have been going off to Japan with.
And your experience in aviation, how you got started all the way up to here?
Sure, yeah, my experience in aviation, like I said, I grew up just an airport brat. You know, my dad's been flying gliders and small airplanes his whole life, so I spent weekends growing up hanging out at grass strips in Hinckley, Illinois, flying gliders with my dad, and learned to fly airplanes at Poplar Grove, Illinois, right next to Rockford where I grew up. And was just fortunate enough to have my dad and a lot of mentors along the way that kind of helped me get into small tube and fabric kind of tailwheel airplanes from like the 1940s era that really translate well into flying stuff like this. And then happened to know the right people when I was a student at Southern Illinois University. A friend of a friend at the time was the chief pilot for this group, and realized that a lot of the people flying these airplanes were getting kind of older or aging out, and that a lot of the reason they were losing pilots is they were just getting too old or couldn't hold the medical anymore. So he's like, hey, do you know any younger pilots that would be a good fit for this kind of operation? And fortunately he gave him my name, and that was 11 years ago, and I just never left. So now I can thank Charlie Rodriguez at Southern Illinois University and David Oliver with the CAF for getting me involved with this in particular.
What is one thing, if you had it, one thing about the B29 that you would just say is your favorite part? Takeoff, landing, the performance, crowd?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly is a showstopper. From the 1980s up until 2017, it was the world's only flying B-29, and then there's only another 10 or 12 that exist statically in museums around the country. When we get to display it to the public like this, that's one of my favorite parts of flying it, and helping people understand that this airplane's why we're not speaking Japanese right now, and kind of telling the story of World War II, not through a textbook or a static museum, but through an active living artifact like this that'll actually drip oil on your shirt if you get too close to it. You know, it's
full-time job?
my full-time. I'm an airline pilot based in New York, so I fly 757s and 767s during the week to Europe and back, so I can come do this on the weekends. So
Yeah, you just thought you'd do this for fun, right?
it pays the bills, so I can come do this. Yeah, we're all volunteers. It's an all nonprofit group, and there's nothing else we'd rather be doing than sharing these airplanes with the public today. So.
What would you say to the people that want to get into aviation that always are thinking about it? What would you say for them to do?
Sure, yeah, people wanting to get into warbird flying like this. You know, I was, as a kid, going to air shows and events like this my whole life, I was always, how do you get to do that? And turns out you kind of just have to show up. If you show up and you know, start by wiping oil down after the flights, and then keep showing up and helping out around the hangars while you're kind of building the pilot skills. If you're interested in being a pilot, you know, build your flying resume, getting tailwheel time and multi-engine time. If you just show up and be a part of the crew and kind of a part of the gang and get to know everybody, it's amazing the opportunities that'll show up from there.
Right. And then what is I mean, when you're done flying this, because it's a older aircraft, are you physically not exhausted?
Pretty exhausted, yeah. I mean, after 2 rides, I don't know if my flight suit's sweating through yet, but it might be. But yeah, I'm pretty. It's a lot of work, you know, a lot of physicality, moving around, a lot of mental activity too. You know, we're kind of constantly evaluating, operating as a crew, the status of the airplane and the airspace and the weather, and it's a pretty good workout to go fly it for just a half hour. It helps us put into perspective what it would have been like to fly for 12 hours in the 1940s. You know, flying it for half hour at a time on a sunny day like this is nothing compared to what they were doing, but helps us get an idea of that.
Range and fuel capacity.
Well, the airplane can hold about 5,400 gallons of 100 low lead right now. Wartime, they would have been over 8,000. That's again kind of part of, we're not flying it to Japan and back, so we've converted some fuel tanks to oil tanks to help us carry oil around. It's hard to really give you a max range on this. I know we've occasionally flown it nonstop from Dallas to like Washington D.C. and back comfortably, or Dallas to Las Vegas. We can comfortably do that, but that's about as far as we would go. Even if we were to fuel it up all the way, we really never do that, because as it gets heavier, the takeoff and climb performance gets significantly worse, so we really only put as much gas on it as we need to keep as big a safety margin as possible. So we kind of fuel it for each flight at a time, and it's pretty rare we really put more than 3,000 gallons or so on the airplane. But thanks for watching.
We got two A26s down this one.
I know, of course. So I really diagrammed it.
Well, we did the same thing when they landed that MiG-25, like Foxbat or whatever in Japan.
Right, to land at number 2 traffic, mile and a half final. 2 right, clear to land, 98 Lima traffic. Service and uniform Delta traffic, Superfortress off your left for the final for runway 2 left.
No, not at that time. Yeah, I know. But I was once aware, probably 63, but we constantly see the B-29s flying out there, and that's what got me into this. So I've been showing some that. I worked for a couple of years when it was service aviation, the old white hangar. Right.
Back to the base of China, fuel up, and go attack Japan, Southeast Asia. So not the most efficient way to wage a war, but that's what we did. We're there supporting them, helping the war effort. And once the Navy and Marines were able to secure some of the islands, South Pacific, Tinian, Guam, Saipan, and Mariana.
Oh, was it just you and Mo?
Yes. Oh, okay. Excited about
I think Jason did half of it.
Yeah. a little overhead.
So the question is, what's the fuel consumption on these aircraft? It's a very good question.
We got a trip plan this year.
So on the B29, it's about 400 gallons an hour.
I saw the old Milwaukee, I saw the old Detroit inside of the counties. I went to the newer one.
The stadium in Milwaukee.
B24 is a little bit less than 300 gallons an hour. That's very much operating cost for the B29.
It's a nice view.
That one's so close.
Dodgers
Detroit.
and-
I don't know if I want to go to Detroit.
Thank you again for coming out.
Oh, wait, no.
Still, almost afternoon. Thank you all for coming out to the Airpower History Tour today in DuPage. As you can see, the B29 FIFI is taxiing back in from our second line flight of the day. and then any emergency responder, fire department, police department, and everybody else. So we try to do it in an organized fashion to start the